So thanks for joining. This is our second event for the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, which is not our initiative. It's a general initiative. I don't know who it started, but I looked at the event page and there are 170 or so events happening today around accessibility. It's pretty cool. It gets often forgotten. So it's nice when there's a day where you just like put your mind to it and make a difference and like, learn a little bit about it, do something about it in any way that feel appropriate. So this is kind of what we're here for. So we have this. We did it last year for the first time. We have this kickoff session, and the we can organize this any way we want. We can shape this freely. But something that we had last year on the list that worked pretty well was first a quick intro to where everyone just kind of says a bit about what their connection or interest in accessibility is. Then I had prepared a quick introduction for framing the topic a bit. Mo wanted to give an intro to what some of the testing we did last year. Czino had a presentation that's a little bit more on the technical side, and then just opening it up. And then we put together a list of apps. And for anyone who wants to help test apps today and annotate screenshots and then file them with the different projects, that's a pretty cool activity to do throughout the day. And then we track those, and we actually have a hit list from last year that I think Mo is probably also going to show in a sec. So how about we start with just a very quick intro. I can start, I guess. I never really cared much about accessibility for the longest time in my profession. Thought it was kind of lame, but it's actually really cutting edge tech. It's pretty awesome what accessibility is and does, and it's super useful. So last year, Accessibility Day came around, and we thought, let's just do something in Bitcoin for the Bitcoin ecosystem, because there's nothing. There just doesn't, like, sometimes some people seem to complain on the topic, but no one really seemed to do something about it. So we were like, okay, let's make something, and now here we are with the second edition. How about we do this thing where if you introduce yourself, you just say the next person. So how about Czino?
Okay, so it's my turn. I'm Czino. It comes from cappuccino. I used to like to drink it. But you might know me. I used to work at Peach Bitcoin, but now I actually help a big e-commerce platform to get ADA compliance, which is a super great coincidence time-wise, because I just did a deep dive into all the compliance checklists and what needs to be paid attention to for making a website ADA compliant. And yeah, I used to already be interested in accessibility because my uncle-in-law, he turned blind and he started using assistive technology on his iPhone. And it's amazing to experience that secondhand, how quickly he can navigate the web with just a screen reader. Like, I'm just baffled by that. And yeah, since then my interest got piqued, and I like to help people with accessibility issues to also have an easier time on the web and applications. Next, how about Michael Hase?
Hey, yeah, I'm also working on the Bitcoin design guide quite a lot the past months, and grantee from Spiral, working on inheritance, and so for me today, what I actually plan to do is exactly what Christoph mentioned. After the call, I'm gonna write some alt text for my own stuff and poke around one or two apps and see. I wanted to test out the the speak screen and voiceover features and see what could be improved in some of the apps. Let's go to Ralph.
Yes, hi, I'm Ralph. I'm with Lipa. We're building a Lightning wallet, amongst other things. Yeah, so I am a bit colorblind, but it's not that bad. So usually I can navigate pretty well around everything. But yeah, we also in our company, one of our employees is pretty colorblind, and he always complains about colors not being able to, or that he's not being able to tell things apart. And yeah, I mean, we want to make our wallet as accessible as possible. So I think it's a good thing to take part here and see what you guys come up with. I have to choose someone. Then let's go with Nenya.
Hi. Yeah, as Ralph mentioned, I'm Nenya. I'm working for Lipa as well. Since nearly 3 years, I'm one of their graphic designers and stepped into UX and UI while working with them. So accessibility is a topic for me as well. Yeah, and that's why I'm here, curious about what we can change to make our app more accessible, and also for our co-founders and employees that are colorblind, less to criticize. How about V next?
Okay, hi, I'm a designer, and I joined this event like for the first time to know about how things work around accessibility. I've always read about it in the articles and the guides, but never used it quite. So yeah, just here to learn something about something new about accessibility and contribute. Okay, yeah, so I have to choose. Okay, Gabriel.
Hello.
Was that me? I'll go ahead. Yeah, so I'm also from Team Lipa. I'm more like on the technical side. So honestly, I've never thought so much about this topic right here. But yeah, I'm here to assist and curious what comes out. And I'll also be in Prague, so happy to help there as well. I'll pass it over to Mo.
Yes, I'm Mo from the Bitcoin design community. I was just making a screenshot because there's so many faces in here. It's so nice to see everyone. So I was making a screenshot. But from the Bitcoin design community, also happy to be here. Last year, Christoph and I put together the accessibility page in Bitcoin Design Guide. So yeah, just here to learn as well and also share anything that we feel that could be helpful to improving accessibility in the ecosystem. I will hand it over to Jason.
Good morning. My name is Jason. I worked for a company called Mobility when I first got started in accessibility. This is about 15 years ago. My professor actually was blind and he used a screen reader, and that really interested me, and I was taking some courses in design at the time, and so he got me an internship with this accessibility company. From there, I worked at AT&T Labs for a few years, heading up their corporate accessibility technology office. And then recently I've been working for another FANG company, heading up their corporate accessibility efforts. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning here for me. So I apologize if I'm a little bit slower, but yeah, I'm here because I saw this last year and I didn't want to miss it this year. So. Who's left? Danny.
My audio is broken. Can you hear me? Okay, it's working. Basanta and I are just going to observe for most of the time. So we work with the wallet scrutiny. We analyze Bitcoin apps and devices. I'm from the Philippines and Basanta is from India. That's it.
I think we have Pat and Paper Psych still missing, right?
Yes, that's correct. Hi, everyone. My name is Pat. We've heard from Ralph, Nini, and Gabu. I'm from the same team, also Lipa here. I'm their product owner, and I personally think that this is an amazing topic. To be fair, we haven't implemented it yet at all, but we have it on our short list, and I think that this might be the perfect kickoff to have a more honest and serious discussion about it, because as you heard, we have people in our team that do have troubles with that. And I think considering that Bitcoin is still, in comparison, such a young industry, we have the best conditions to make it better than where conventional apps started. So let's make an effort to be more inclusive.
Hello, beautiful design people. I am Paper Psych. I go by Paper in the community. I recently became a UI UX designer. I work for Bitshala freelance, and I've worked on some projects with Adam Jonas. And recently, as I did my design projects, I've been thinking how to incorporate accessibility a bit more, and thus here I am to learn more about it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I think that's everyone, right? Okay, cool. Then I'll go into my spiel here for just a little bit. If you've seen it from last year, it's probably kind of similar. But who was here last year? Well, okay, cool. It'll be new and exciting for you. Okay, so I will make myself a little bit smaller here now. If you can see that in my background, that's the Google Doc that I shared. It's in the chat, and you have all edit access to it. So if you're welcome to put in links in there, add notes, anything you'd like for this whole session. What I would like to first look at is actually a website by Apple. So if you can see it behind me here, so it says, make it big, make it clear, make it speak, make it listen, make it simple, make it yours. And I feel like that's such an excellent framing for this whole thing. Like I said earlier, for me, accessibility used to be kind of a thing where it's like, it has like the accessibility experts, they just want everything to look super hideous and just have black text on white backgrounds. And it's like, I could not have been more wrong. So I really like this framing here, that it's like, make it yours, because people come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes with all different needs and expectations. And some of these things are temporary. Like when you're in the subway reading on your phone, maybe you want the text to be a little bit bigger. That's like a situational, it's not disability, there's some term for it. And some of them are more persistent, just something happened to us. We grew up, having certain need or desire or whatever. We get older, we see worse, all kinds of stuff happens. And accessibility, it's such a great way to think about it, that you just make this technology work for you, right? That we don't have to adjust to it, but it works for us. And different to traditional graphic design, where you print something, that's kind of it. Screens can be super expressive. They can be super dynamic. They can, within a split second, they can adjust the colors, the layouts, whatever has happened. We have voice, we have all this stuff. So that's a really good way to think about it. And Apple is pretty much at the forefront of all of these things. Like this personal voice thing is pretty awesome. So if you have like a disease where you're losing your voice in a year or so, you can just create an AI voice, right? And even once you've lost your actual voice, you can type text and it will speak for you within your voice. So there's all kinds of cool stuff. OpenAI, they announced a thing where you just hold up your camera and it annotates the world for you in very high detail, so you can hail a cab even if you're blind or so. Just a lot of really, really cool, super high-tech features. It's pretty impressive to me. And that is baked into operating systems. Apple does a great job at it. Android's pretty good at it as well. I have no idea about the current state of Windows or Linux or other opportunities. So I'm just mostly into the app. Maybe some of you will know about that. And then I wanted to point out the accessibility page we have in the Bitcoin Design Guide. So if you go to Guide, under Designing Bitcoin Products, Accessibility, that's where we put together some basic information about the different categories: hearing, intellectual, physical, literacy. We put in some tips and examples because most the accessibility needs are actually not actually not Bitcoin specific. There are some Bitcoin specific things like recovery phrase, or every app has these QR codes, or there are some symbols in there, like how does it read? Can it detect, read out the Bitcoin symbol, or units that are uncommon or so? There's some interaction scanning a QR code, these types of things that are unique, but almost everything is just general accessibility stuff. So we can really rely on all the documentation and videos and everything that's already out there. So there's this page kind of covers some of the basic intros. At the bottom, there's a list of different tools you can use for testing, some resources, and also some videos, and also some test results of tests that we did. Then I wanted to switch over to the Figma file, which is already also linked to in the Google Doc. And I'll just point out a few things there, also share that. And so here I wanted to get hands-on because, I feel like a couple of years ago or so, sometimes accessibility came up every half year on Twitter or so, and it's like, yay, we need to do something. And then no one did anything and was kind of forgotten. So I really like the hands-on aspect, like actually doing things. So I just wanted to dive right in and point out a few things. So this screen here is, I think that's when you buy a new Android device and you start it for the first time, this is what you see. And you see accessibility is at the very bottom. So from the beginning, people can set up their devices for their personal needs. It's not something you necessarily do later or someone else sets up for you, but it is part of the experience of operating systems. It's not some tacked on thing, but it's integral to these things. And then if you look at here the iOS settings, accessibility setting, it's a ton of stuff. And I feel like it keeps getting longer every year. There's just so much you can adjust. It's split into vision, physical and motor, hearing, and then some general stuff. And then you can also create application-specific settings. So let's say there's some wallet where the text is too small. You can just say, well, always make the text bigger in that one, or increase the contrast always in that one. It's very customizable. Let's see. These are some of the settings on Mac OS. And then I think these are on Android here. Android is a little bit different on iOS and Mac. It's pretty much all baked in. On Android, you have to install a bunch of different apps. And I have a list of those later as well. But they also just provide a ton of different features there. So this is a good thing if you're just bored on the sofa, maybe turn off Netflix or TikTok and just kind of click around those settings and just kind of turn stuff on and see what happens, see how it changes your experience. Stuff like color filters, or increase contrast, or increase the text size and try to browse around and see what happens. Just trying to get a feel for it, for everything that's out there, and then just browse and use things. If you ever look over the shoulders of people in the subway or so, or in the bus, you might actually notice a lot of people do things like increasing the text size. Not necessarily just older people, but younger people too. So this stuff is pretty broadly used. And so here's an example. Here's an example of the Apple Maps app with, on the left, with regular text size, then with small text size and large text size. And this is important for us designers to, when we think about interface design and layouts, that we consider this, that things can change flexibly. So this here is just the text size, which affects the layout. But here on the right side, for example, the button, the blue is much darker. That's where I just said I want more contrast. There's also another feature where you can do smart invert, where it inverts the light and the dark, but not just a linear inversion, but a smart inversion. So let's say an app doesn't have a dark mode, but you want one, you just turn that on for this application. So the colors can also shift. There's another feature in there that says you prefer labels, so it will replace any type of icon and other things with text as well. So it really can as a designer, that's kind of good to know how these things shift and change. So there are some categories here of things that I feel like are useful for testing on smartphones. So let's imagine you have no hands, but you have your smartphone in front of you. So you can see things, you can read everything, but you just cannot touch, right? That's where on Android you have voice access is the app. I think you need to install it. On iOS, it's voice control. On iOS, you can even say, hey Siri, turn on voice control, and it'll just do it for you. And then you see for all interactive elements, you see these little... voice control on. Wow, Siri in my phone in my pocket just turned it on for me. That's awesome. Let me just turn that off. Cool. And then, so now you're in a situation where you can read everything. You can see the QR code, you can see the labels, but you need a way to tell it what to tap on, right? That's where you have two options. You can say show names or show labels. And then these little things pop up and it'll be like numbers, show numbers or show names or show numbers, I think. And then you just say press 8 or press 7 or press close or double tap QR code or so. And then it'll just do it for you. So that's like one step, like, no touch, you can still use it. And what you need for that is, let's say, because the person can see, the UI, the screen reader, it just has to know what the interactive elements are. So for example, there's one wallet where the only way to access your transaction is like a little arrow icon. But in that particular wallet, which shall be unnamed, that element is not accessible. The screen reader, it cannot see it. It doesn't know it's there. So you can see it. You see there's a little arrow, but you cannot interact with it because it doesn't know it's there. That means that no user who relies on these things can ever access their transaction history, just because this little button is not like indicated like this is an interactive element. Like that's a situation where someone is completely blocked. They cannot use this just because of this one little button. So let's go into another scenario. Now you have no eyes. Screen is black. Like you can't even see like these little indications here. So now you need to rely on the device reading things out for you. So the people who rely on the screen reader that way, they actually turn it up super fast. They have, I don't know what the number is, but they let the screen read out super fast. It's like da 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 da, and they're used to listening to that. And then they could technically still say like press close or press this or press that, right? Because they can still speak. And to do that, there's Android TalkBack. There's on iOS, there's a thing called VoiceOver. And something that people also do, iOS has a thing called screen curtain. So if you triple tap with 3 fingers on your screen, the screen goes black. Because for a blind person, the screen is irrelevant, right? It might even be, in terms of Bitcoin, it might be a security risk. If someone can look over your shoulder and see your wallet information, and you can't tell, right? Because you're blind, you can't see. So and it saves battery in the first place too. So there's a screen curtain thing, completely blackens the screen, and then they rely on, probably with headphones or so, or to speak. And that's where, the screen reader, it's kind of important that it reads things from top to bottom because you can't see. So it needs to, and that's also not always the case. Like there are some wallets where it starts reading like the bottom bar first, and then it reads all of your transactions, your whole transaction history, because before telling you, like, there's a close button or a send button or so. So the order in which things are read out is important there. And there's also kind of a grouping. So a lot of times it will say, send button, receive button, list of transactions. So instead of reading out all transactions, it just says list of transactions, and you can say, well, read me my transactions or so, or go into transactions, and then you go out. So it becomes like a manageable amount for people. And then you have the situation where, and this is, now where you use what is it called? A switch or a toggle, or basically keyboard control.
Switch controls.
Switch controls. So that's where, instead of reading the whole thing out to you, you select one thing at a time. And you can do that on the web with your keyboard. It's usually the way it works. On smartphones is like you swipe left to select the next thing, and it will just say, okay, 1, back, button, and then we'll say the next thing, it will say button, send, double tap to activate, or something like that. Or it just reads things out for you. And then you just kind of it's just like a menu, you go through one by one, it tells you what it is, and then you double tap if you want to activate it. And for that, you really need what do you need? You need basically 3 buttons that you need to be able to control, like next, previous, and a tap, and a double tap. So that's also a pretty cool thing. So I think that is, if you can do that today, try to go on your phone, set up, the respective apps, your favorite wallet, make it blind, or blind your eyes, don't look, turn that on, and then just use swipe left and right and tap and double tap to try to make a transaction, send it to someone, or look up a transaction, or go to your settings and change something, or so. If you can do that today, I think that's a really great experience. If you can do that, and that is, I think that covers that. You can catch a ton of issues just by doing that, and you can do that in 15 minutes on your sitting on your sofa. And if you find something, just take a screenshot, and then just annotate it somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, here are some examples okay, let's talk real quick about enabling this stuff. As you've just heard, you can just tell Siri what you want enabled. In iOS, what I do is I enable accessibility shortcut. So that is under accessibility settings, accessibility at the bottom. There's a thing called accessibility shortcut. Enable that, set which features you want in here. And then what I can do is, I think I triple, let me just see real quick. Yeah, I triple press the right side button. This little menu comes up, and then I can say, cool, turn on, a screen reader or what is it called? Voice control or voiceover. And I usually turn on voice control and voiceover, and then I just test and use the application, and that's that. Another useful thing here is in voice control, if you turn on overlay item names, then it will always show these little bubbles where it tells me what it knows about each element. So that's a helpful thing. But you can literally set that up in 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and just be good to go. In Android, I found it a little bit more involved. Like I said, I needed to install voice access, Android voice access, and Android talkback. There's another application that should already be installed on your phone, because you need to install these apps to have those features. And there's a little bit more of an involved setup process where it also onboards you through the different usage. But once it's set up, it's pretty much the same. One thing that Android has is you can enable this little button here at the bottom for super quick access to turning these features on and off. And yeah, that's basically it. Then you turn on your talkback, and then you're just off to test. And like I said, try out all these different things. Oh yeah, something cool that there's a thing that called sound notifications. So if it detects a fire alarm or a crying baby or something like that, then it will notify you. So if you can't hear, it will tell you oh, there was this certain sound that you should be aware of. So really, I don't know, it seems like pretty cool stuff that I might just turn on anyways. And then just some examples of common things, common issues. Like here, for example, I mean, this is the stuff that you're going to find when testing. Like there's a little pencil icon, and the application just doesn't know what it is, right? Like, if you can't see, you cannot tell what it'll just. And you select it, it'll just say button, and then you're like, cool. What happens if I press this? So, and all you need to do in code is have like in HTML, it's area dash label, and then just say, edit. So whatever that would be.
Sorry about that.
So it's really simple stuff. This button here is missing a label. The QR code is not selectable, so it doesn't exist for a blind person. This is an issue, common thing that happens. This modal cannot be closed. So as a user, as a visual user, you can tap on the background to close this one. But this functionality is not available to someone who is blind and relies on those keyboard controls. So you're stuck in this modal forever. I cannot use the wallet anymore. Here was a thing where the text is split up because there's some bold text in here. So it will say to guarantee your Bitcoin or to use your account. So it sees it as multiple elements. Oh yeah, here's that example of the not annotated button to access your transaction history. Here's an interesting thing. Phoenix has done something recently. This QR code in the new Phoenix, it actually has actions hidden underneath it. And when you use a screen reader, it will tell you that there are actions, but you cannot see them. So this is actually a situation where features are easier to find as a person with using those accessibility tools than someone who relies on visual clues. It's an interesting thing there as well. So yeah, that's just kind of that was my spiel. I feel like I went on for way too long. And Jason already had some good comments. You're the pro here, actually, so you need to let us know how much of that was good or bad, or what's missing here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just want to echo that. Labeling your controls are very important, just because it's not just talkback or voiceover users that are going to be impacted there. It's not just the blind users, but it's also going to be folks that are using voice narration, dictation software, voice control, because when you're navigating through an app using those types of dictation tools, you need to know what the name of the label for the control is, right? And so if you see a label that says send, but there's an accessible name of ship or something like that, you have to guess at that name, right? And so it's important to have consistent accessible names and consistent visible labels.
Yep. And the good thing is we tested, like Mo and I and some others, we tested like 10, 15 different apps already last year or so, and then we filed a lot of issues. This is so fast. You can test this so quickly and find the majority of the things so quickly.
Yeah.
And I talked to a Twitter user or Bitcoiner who is blind. And I told him about some tests we did, and he said, well, what did you find? And I told him, oh, yeah, we found this and this and this and that. And he said, well, thanks for telling me. I had no idea these things exist. These features exist in those wallets. And I thought, like, that is kind of heartbreaking there, It's like, it's not even, like, that's what accessibility access means. Like, these things just don't exist if they're not properly labeled. But now, how about handing it to Mo? You wanted to talk about some of these tests?
Yeah, so we tested last year. I have to say that the testing process is, once you turn on those accessibility features on your phone, it kind of can feel very overwhelming in the beginning, because you're going to be clicking around and trying to navigate, and it's going to feel very sticky. That's the word that I'm going to use. So don't feel like once you turn that on, it's you'll notice a very different feeling in your user experience. If you would like to set up your iPhone, like there's this video over here. I think Christoph did a video as well, but I'm just going to share this YouTube link. It's at the bottom of the, that's the audio that came on. So this is a very quick video showing how to set up your iPhone for accessibility testing. So he just shows you how to go into the features. For me, that was just something to look at very quickly, turn on the features as Christoph said, and start testing. So something that we did in the community last year was we decided to create what we called a hit list. So what we did, we kept things very practical. We created a GitHub issue in the Meta repo in Bitcoin Design. And we basically used that to track any accessibility tests that we did. So we tested Blue Wallet, we tested Moon Wallet, Blockstream Green, and so on. And then we would put the test results in a Figma file, and then we would file that on the actual GitHub of the wallet. And then it was really nice because the wallets would often, reply, and then they would fix it, and then they would come back and they would ask if the fix was correct. So it was really nice. But we're very much still, at the learning stages. I mean, it's really nice that we have Czino and he's disappeared now. Oh, and Jason on the call as well, as people who are a bit more experienced with accessibility testing, because we're keeping things at the foundational level now of labels. So we're using that as like an entry level. If wallets could just label their screens correctly on the development side, that's a low lift activity to making the wallet accessible. So yeah, so this is pretty much it. This is all the wallets. And then I'll just hop into this one here. We did a test here. So this is an example. I think, is this visible now?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is just an example of accessibility testing for Breeze Wallet. And no hard feelings towards Breeze Wallet. If you are watching this, we probably filed this on their GitHub as well, but this is just using this as an example. So for example, we made a note here that the labels of the buttons are missing. And then, we just go screen for screen, we take screenshots. And then, one of the biggest things, I think, as Christoph mentioned as well, is the QR code on the screen. A lot of wallets don't let the screen readers know that there is actually a QR code on the screen. So they don't know that there's anything to take action with. Another thing is the way that the numbers are read out. Something that I think is not a solution to be fixed right now, but the Bitcoin address, like if you're going to read that out to a blind user and you would expect them to remember that, to take that over to another transaction, like that's just something, So with last year, I mentored a Summer of Bitcoin students, and one of the biggest things that came up, he was researching, how would you improve a Lightning wallet for a Bitcoin user who's blind? And one of the biggest things that came up was the seed phrase, during the onboarding process, because how would you read that out to someone in a way that they're going to capture that information safely? And how would you expect someone to remember 12 words? So that's something that he was trying to come up with solutions of, and he worked in public in the accessibility channel, which I think I'll also share the link. So we have an accessibility channel in the Bitcoin design community on Discord. If any of you do get super active today and start going crazy with accessibility tests, we'll just be chiming in and jumping in on that accessibility channel in the Bitcoin design community. I'll share it very quickly. And then just if you find anything that you think is interesting or you think might be helpful to others, just share it in the accessibility channel as well. I think we just try to get as much hands-on as possible. By getting hands-on, you really get a feel of what it feels like to be a blind user or a user with visual difficulties. Yeah, I think that's it from my side. I don't think we do only have 15 minutes, so I want to hand it over to Czino because he's prepared something else as well. So Czino, I'll hand that over to you.
Okie dokie. Let me share my screen. All right. Okay, I can control it. Oh, don't want notes. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, seems like. All right. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about web accessibility for devs. And yeah, I will concentrate more on websites than for apps, because apps, there are many technologies and they have different ways of doing it. So the examples I give, they're web specific, but I'm sure that all these techniques can also be applied on other technologies as well to display UI. So yeah, let's jump right in. Just generally, so accessibility is not only for disabled people. Like there are many techniques that also make the life easier for every other user who doesn't have any disability. Like for example, keyboard navigation. Me personally, I find myself often pressing the escape key when I see a modal, and very often it doesn't close, and then I have to navigate with the mouse, and it's a bit tedious. So even regular users can benefit from that. Later, I show you more examples how that applies. But since web accessibility often finds the focus on disabled people, here's a short statistics how many people actually have disabilities. And when I saw this graph, I found these numbers actually staggering. Like almost every age group has more than 5% of the population with disabilities. And of course, with growing age, it only increases this number. And yeah, keep that in mind when you develop your app. Like there are many people in your user base who actually benefit from these best practices. Then that's also the actual reality, is that many are not focusing on that. And you see this graph, like it's barely going down, this number, and most websites there are still not compliant with the web content accessibility guides, and it's still more than 90%. So if you just put in a bit of elbow grease, you are far ahead of many others. And yeah, speaking of those failures, here are the most common failures. Some of them are design related, like low contrast text, which colorblind people often find very difficult then to discern text with different colors. So keep the contrast of your text high. But then the others are often development mistakes, like alternative text on images, or those missing labels on buttons, like you have a pencil icon and the screen reader doesn't tell you what it actually does. So add those labels. And we have also empty links, empty buttons, case related to missing labels. And then just something simple as missing document language. Like if you have a page and the language is in English, then mark it as English. If it's in French, then mark it as French, so it's pronounced correctly by the screen reader. Then web accessibility is also followed by our dear lawmakers. So in the US, we have ADA. And if you're not complying with ADA and you run a website that targets US customers, there is the potential there that you even can get sued for discrimination. So be careful with that. And the EU is also shortly behind it. So next year, actually, they will enforce the European Accessibility Act, and it applies to medium to large businesses. So there are some rules that we also have to comply with there. So yeah, the four main objectives of web content accessibility are very simple. It needs to be perceivable, it needs to be operable and understandable. And of course, it also needs to be robust, because if you program it lightly and things break, then the first three objectives fail as a result of that, of course, as well. And then also as bonus benefits, it's not only that users with disabilities benefit from that, but also you and every other user benefits from that. So in the case of web, you get a better SEO rankings, because search engines also look on that. And yeah, everybody saves time, because if your website is properly understandable and navigatable, then there's not so much frustration or confusion what your interface is actually trying to represent, to convey to the user. So next up, I compiled a little list of the basics, and I think if you do follow these basics, you actually already achieve 80% by just doing 20% of the work. So let's jump right in, starting with something that most people with screen readers and keyboard navigation see or should see at the first thing on a website, which is skip to content. And I actually took a look at Bitcoin Design, and you have it, but only on some pages. I didn't see it on the main page. So if you could check that out, that would be great. But on Bitcoin Design /join, you have it, and I was happy to see that. And yeah, it allows the user to just skip the navigation part, because otherwise, if you have a screen reader, you always have to read through the navigation, and it can get annoying because you at some point you know it by heart. Then one other simple thing is doing semantic markup, like just structure your HTML code logically that it makes sense. Here's an example of what you shouldn't do. So you probably can spot some right away, like here's an A tag missing. It's not really, the syntax is not correct. Then you have headlines all over the place, 1, 6, 3, 5. It does not really make sense. So instead of this, strive for something like this. So here you can see we have tags that are semantic, like this tells you it's a navigation. The navigation is listed. And then you have the main section, which is subdivided into an article. And then the headlines, of course, are also logically structured, 1, 2, 3. And a machine has an easier time understanding this as well. So then images, as we already discussed, should have alt texts. So if you cannot see what the image is, then have the screen reader describe it to you. This does not apply to every image, especially for eShops. I found that many product images have just the product name as an alt text, and then the product name right next to it, which makes little sense because the screen reader reads the product name twice. So it does not really serve the purpose here to put an alt text. And in this case, you can just leave it empty. And that also applies to any other decorative image that does not need to be read. Then as a bonus, of course, if you use alt text, then if the image doesn't load, you still get to see what the image actually was supposed to represent. Like sometimes the internet connection might not be so good, but you can still read out the image. And of course, also search engines, they just love alt text, because if you have a alt text that matches a search query, your image will also appear in the image search. Then another thing that every user benefits from are techniques to save user time. And one of the biggest one is autocomplete. So if you have input fields, then just use the autocomplete tag, like name, username, password, email, and so on. And whenever I see it on the web, I'm using it. I have my little profile on Chrome. Then I'm happy that I can just do 2 clicks and everything is automatically filled. So it's very nice. On the bottom, you have the link here with the QR code if you're interested in the full list. Later, I'm also going to share I think, Christoph, you shared it on the document, the link to my presentation. So the link is also there. Then ARIA tags, Jason, he mentioned them before, like they're Accessible Rich Internet Application stands for, and they're meant to further describe the role or the state that certain elements on the page are in. So often I see it in web design, we have just a div tag and an on-click handler. And that's fair and it's all good. Maybe you put in a CSS that the cursor should be a pointer, but a screen reader wouldn't recognize it as a button. So if it needs to be a div tag for some reasons, then at least add the role button to further assist screen readers to tell them, hey, there is an action. And also, yeah, I think keyboard navigation could also benefit from that. If you press enter, that also the on-click is then being triggered. Then one of the most used area tags is area label. So in the case of the button with just a pencil icon, again, it would be nice to have an area label that then describes what the button does, like edit address or something. So yeah, use these tags whenever you can, but if possible, prefer HTML over area labels. So an example I could give you, the pencil icon button, maybe have a button instead that writes out edit or edit with the pencil icon, because then you don't even need the area label. And I'm telling you this because it can easily happen that you have a label, but then you change the content of the button, but you forget to change the label. So suddenly the label says something else than what the button is representing, like the example that Jason gave with send and ship. So yeah, those tags can get stale as well. Then keyboard navigation, but it also includes screen reader navigation. Here I give, like Christoph, I wanted to give you the tip, just take some time and navigate through your website or your app with the keyboard or the screen reader. It's surprising what you can find, really. Then next one, that's a big one, I think, for Bitcoin wallets, is error prevention. So if you have a screen for sending a transaction, make your user first review and confirm the information that they're about to submit. Because it can easily happen that in the amount you just put 1 0 too much and you don't want it. So give the user the possibility to roll back before they commit and submit the form. Then another tip, especially for us developers, is write unit tests for UI elements. Not to mention that unit tests are a good thing in general, but we can go a step further and write unit tests even for UI elements with accessibility in mind. I'm going to give you an example here with Toggle for the theme, dark mode and light mode. And if you don't think about accessibility, the screen reader would just say, at best, maybe there's a button and you don't know what it is. Maybe it says switch. So by writing a unit test with accessibility in mind, you can shift a bit the mindset. I've seen many unit tests for UI that use test IDs. Try to avoid test IDs and instead try to access the elements by text or by accessibility hint. So here I have an example where we render the theme settings and we get the element by the accessibility hint. In this case, enable dark mode. And then we just press this element. And then we expect that the theme is going to be dark. So you have a double whammy. You test what you're coding and you get accessibility on top. So as a result, then this element would look like this. You have the accessibility hint right here. And this is what the screen reader would read to you. And yeah, this example is specific to React Native, but it also exists for, I'm pretty sure that it exists for other technologies as well. So if you're using other technologies, look into this. Is very nice technique. Okay, then last but not least, some resources for you. Christoph, he mentioned a very nice plugin for JSX, for React, ESLint. It's an ESLint plugin, so you get ESLint errors while you're coding, and if you happen to violate some of the rules, then you get the hint right away and you can just fix it while developing it. So you don't need to have a designer from Bitcoin Design Guide looking over your application later to find this out. Then also for web accessibility, what helped me greatly was this checklist. It goes through the whole web content accessibility guidelines from version 2.0, I think, for all the compliance level, A, AA, AAA. And yeah, just read through the list. There's so many useful things that you might not be even thinking about. Like, definitely for me, it was helpful because there were so many things I have not considered to pay attention to. So that's a good resource to look at for sure. I think also you can apply this to applications, mobile applications as well, or desktop applications. Then also for web, there's a browser plugin called Wave, and you can just click the button and it analyzes your page and it gives you warnings or errors if you happen to violate one or two of the rules or many. And it also tells you what you did well. So definitely a useful tool for web development as well. And that's it. Here I have your link again, in case you want to check out the presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. I assume the people trying to speak were just trying to clap, right? Yeah, awesome. Thanks for the presentation. You had a good point there, that you don't need a designer to kind of find your stuff. I feel like this accessibility stuff, everyone feels like it's someone else's responsibility in a way. Designers feel like, devs should take care of it. I don't know, how to label or even how to navigate the code. And developers like, well, a designer needs to have this baked in somehow. and then it just kind of no one does it, or it's kind of a weird thing. So I feel like it's best if it doesn't become an afterthought, but it just becomes a normal thing of your development. Like, especially in code, if you have a plugin that just tells you if you missed a label, you don't even have to think about it, right? It's ideal. As a designer, we don't really have plugins, automations like that, but that's where it's great when you're just QA testing things. Get the application, sit on the sofa for 15 minutes. You're going to catch most of it. So we can take as long as we want in this call. Like, we can just keep going. If someone needs to hop off, that's cool too. Maybe a good time. So my suggestion would be that anyone who wants to stay longer to maybe set up their device for testing. Happy to stay on or to continue conversations, so we can all kind of test Bitcoin, Lightning, eCash, and Nostr apps throughout the day. I got a bunch of apps from Carnage, who does a ton of design for Nostr applications. I don't think anyone's ever really tested those. Maybe we can do some there too. But I think some people are definitely going to do a lot of testing throughout the day. But for anyone who needs to get going, do you have any more questions or discussion points, anything you wanted to discuss?
Well, I just maybe one comment on keyboard navigation. I used to work for a mainframe software company, so it's the complete antithesis of decentralization. But it was a very heavy application, and thinking about keyboard navigation as a designer also forces you to think of, more logically and let users how you want users to navigate through the app, and it's actually a pretty good exercise. My team always beat me up on it.
Yeah. I personally like the testing too, because then I really get to test out all the different features. Like, can we test some silent payments, or some Bolt 12, or some of the other features, and just kind of dig in and get a feel for what the cool stuff people are building.
So yeah, what does everyone want to do? I mean, I think we'll be testing pretty much throughout the day, testing wallets, adding screenshots to Figma, that kind of thing. And then, you've got Czino here and Jason, who are, Jason is an accessibility engineer, and I think Czino is on his way to becoming an accessibility engineer.
Yeah, aspiring to.
So we've got two very, on the development level, these are the two best guys you could possibly ever have in one room. So if you want to, take advantage of that, I know I would. So
Jason might be going to bed.
Right.
Yeah, I got to drop here shortly, but I will stick around for a few more minutes if anyone has any technical questions that they're grappling with and can't figure out.
Wow.
We'll do everything publicly in the accessibility channel, all the testing. So if someone needs to go and work or do other things, have lunch, breakfast, feel free to hop in later. We'll just make everything super public. Also happy to hop in later in separate calls if anyone needs help, get things set up, or wants to tag team on something.
Yeah, I have to drop off. I have to still help the e-commerce platform with the ADA compliance.
Yeah.
But I will be in Discord, so you can catch me there if you like.
Thanks very much for the presentation, Czino.
Thank you for having me.
Presentation.
Thank you.
Very good.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
I wanted to ask you something. As a dev, can I help you with anything?
Absolutely, you can also test. Or one of the things we noticed is that even after we filed a lot of issues, we emailed companies, and usually everyone said, well, thank you so much for letting us know about these things and filing them, because we try to be very detailed, like, here's a screenshot, here's the thing that's not working, here's how to fix it. And then no one wanted to work on it, right? It just sat there for half a year or a year or so. For Blue Wallet, I actually personally went in and did a bunch of fixes, because I was like, I want this to be better here. But that's not always possible. So implementing things is great. And I don't think it takes a long time either. Like they're not like Bitcoin Core consensus changes. It's like adding some labels in a few strategic spots. Those are things that can be done in just a couple of hours and that don't need crazy thorough code reviews. So both on the testing side or raising more awareness, sharing some articles today, or fixing things, that's all great. Wherever you feel like you want to personally dig in. Are you looking for something specific to contribute to?
I mean, not really, but if you need any, like, I can't even think of anything that I have a unique position to contribute to, like anyone else, like over anyone else. So yeah, I'll have to think about it. But otherwise, I can just help with generic stuff, like
Yeah.
filing issues.
You know, the unfortunate thing is that the bar is pretty low. Like we're not doing cutting edge, Apple accessibility stuff. We're like inventing amazing new features. We need to fix the basics here first, and then we can level up. So yeah, last year it was really just labeling and some really basic, some focus stuff. We're just chopping away at the basics still. But I do hope that as we get more awareness and we improve things, that we can then level up. And maybe there's some really cool new techniques we can come up with around recovery phrases or QR codes or managing payments or privacy related things. Maybe some of these accessibility features are actually great privacy features for activists or high risk individuals or so. I feel like there's this whole realm, but we still need to kind of cover the basics first. So yeah, it's like testing and filing issues.
Thanks for coming over, Wallet Scrutiny team. Yeah, that was a very spontaneous invite yesterday. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Danny and Basanta as well.
Yeah. Any more questions, or should we just kind of divide and conquer a bit? I'm kind of curious today to test Nostr apps, Damus and Primal probably. Those seem to be kind of the big ones. I'm also curious to test an eCash app where I think eNuts is, because we have Eric who works in the design. We have him in the design community. I think that's a cool one. Maybe the first ever accessibility testing of eCash wallets.
Yeah.
And then I'm also kind of curious to go back and look at some stuff we tested last year and see if there have been changes since then. But those would be my starting points. Are there any new apps, any new wallets or so, anything you want to test that you'd like to dig into?
Yeah, I'm thinking about testing an app that allows multi-sig wallets to see how that works, because it's a lot of stuff on that screen. So don't know which one yet. Maybe Nunchuk. So that's my goal for after lunch. Need to finish up some stuff before that.
Sounds good.
I was actually thinking about starting to test the app that I designed myself. So to find out what else is there that we didn't think about yet. I have a long list from you guys now, what to keep an eye on. So far, we only actually took care of a dark mode. That's it. So there's still a lot to do, I guess.
And Nenya, are you in the Bitcoin Design Community Discord as well, or shall I send over the link?
I just got in there. I have never used Discord, so I have a little bit to figure out how to use it. But yeah, I'm in there now, and we'll have a look how I can navigate myself through there. But yeah, good to be there now, to have access and be in touch with you guys, to be able to ask questions.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, check out the video here. That is a test that I did a couple of years ago or so, and it just shows how to activate on your phone. Clicks through. It's like 3 minutes long or so. It's not even 3 minutes long, but it shows you how you go about testing, the basics. So that's kind of what you're shooting for, I think, to get started with, and you're going to find majority of issues that way. But reach out if you need help setting up devices or testing, or if you want one of us or someone else to also help and get another perspective on things. That's what we're here for today. Doing some accessibility stuff. Thanks for joining. Thanks for getting up so early, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll catch the next one. I guess most of these are around 8 a.m. my time, so hopefully I can join one soon.
Yeah, this is a very early one for the community as well, because we just wanted to make sure we have the whole day for testing. You know,
Yeah.
but usually we do them later in the day.
But Jason, it means a lot that you've sacrificed a considerable amount of hours to sleep just to be here on this call. You know, we'll do our best to accommodate you next year as well. But thank you so much for your time as well.
Excellent. I'll be lurking and looking for ways to contribute.
Yeah.
Sleep tight.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So we're a smaller
All
group
right.
now. What would you like to do? Do you just want to go off and start doing things and chat on Discord, or?
I'll drop it like it's hot.
Same.
Do it.
All right. See you later.
Okay.
Take care.
Awesome. Thanks so much for
Feel
joining.
free to say hi and message me directly. Oh, she's hopped off. Oh, there she is. Feel free to say hi and find me on Discord so that we can connect. I'm happy to introduce you to the community and help you to navigate your way around as well.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this today still, because I need to move later as well. Okay. But I will be for sure there and drop you a message.
Feel free to.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for the invite to this meeting and all the work you put in. It was good insights.
All right. Thank you very much, Nina. See you in the community.
Yeah. See you guys later. I'm gonna stop
Bye-bye.
the recording now.